Welcome to Point Blank, where we suss out issues on the ground that matter to you. I'm E-von.
And I'm Poh Kwan. This evening we're hot on the by-election that's going on at Permatang Pauh in Penang.
That's right, but first of all, why is there so much attention on a little by-election that's taking place in a small rural constituency in Penang?
Well, there must be a reason for that, right? But before we talk about it, let's introduce our studio guest for this evening.
That's right.
Okay, we'll have Dr. Ooi Kibeng, who is right here. He is a fellow from the Institute of Southeast Asian Studies. Yeah, thanks for coming,
Hello,
Dr.
hi.
Ooi.
Thanks, Dr. Ooi.
You're very welcome.
Okay.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, Dr. Ooi, we know that you've written a lot on the Malaysian politics. You have talked about like the new economic policies, the affirmative actions that's practiced in Malaysia, and you have also talked about the leadership of UMNO as well as Dr. Mahathir. So, but I also understand that you are Swedish citizen. So, why is there, such a strong interest in writing about Malaysian politics?
Well, I was born and bred in Penang.
Okay.
I lived the first 25 years of my life in Penang. And the interest, of course, in Malaysia has never gone away.
Okay. So we have found the right person to talk to, right, today. Okay.
But now I'm working here in Singapore. Been working here 4 years now at the Institute of Southeast Asian Studies.
Okay.
And my job is to study Malaysia and write books about Malaysia.
Okay.
So how different is it, observing Malaysia from within Malaysia itself, and, from Sweden, and now you're 4 years into Singapore?
A world of difference. If I compare those three areas that you mentioned, when you're in Malaysia, of course, you tend to get sucked into the emotions of the moment, and you listen to talk and coffee shop talk or whatever, and there's a tendency of getting lost into it. If you're away in Sweden, then you tend to become a bit theoretical because the emotions are not really there. It's not in your face, whatever wrong you might see or right, it's not in your face. So you tend to become a bit theoretical, which is also good. You need that period, I think. Now, Singapore, it's just the right distance, I think. It's just the right
detached
distance.
enough, but
detached enough, and you can get to the ground practically immediately, right?
Okay.
And then all your contacts are very close at hand, and you just pick up the phone, call them, they call you, whatever.
Okay.
So I think I've been here 4 years, and I think it's the perfect distance, really.
Okay. And why is there a change in your citizenship? I mean, I know this question may get a little personal.
Oh, no problem. I became Swedish long time ago, in the 80s. At that time, if you remember, Malaysians were not allowed in China. And just around that time, I was studying philosophy, Western philosophy and all that. And I went into Eastern philosophy. But and from there on, I had to go to China, although it was communist and all that. And Malaysians were not allowed in China at that time.
Okay.
And at that point, I thought, well, okay, I wasn't coming back to Malaysia. I had a family there anyway, so I thought, okay, I'll switch to Swedish citizenship and go to China, and I did. And I studied there about 2 years, studying Chinese officially, really. But actually to learn about the philosophy, I suppose, Taoism or Confucianism, whatever.
All right.
That's why I switched.
So you have a really interesting sort of insight into politics, also from the branch of philosophy, and an understanding of culture, which is different from just pure politics itself.
I suppose because of me having lived in different parts of the world and under different civilizations, and in nations that are at different stages of development, I suppose I do get a sort of distance, for better or worse. It's not always good with distance.
Yeah, definitely. And we know that Malaysia, as we speak, is in a very interesting stage of development.
Yes,
interesting state of affairs in Malaysia right now.
And going back to our previous point on why there's so much attention on this small, by-election that happens at a small town, Permatang Pauh. What's your take on that? I mean, why is it? Why there's so much attention?
Well, it's today. It was the center of all the tension in Malaysia, really, all day up until now. I think the final results are not, the official results are not announced yet, but it looks as if Anwar is winning. So to get an idea of why it's so important, why these elections are so important, we have to, of course, go back a bit, look at the history, the historical context, the and what all this will mean for the immediate future of Malaysia. Now, I suppose the audience will know a bit about Anwar Ibrahim. He used to be the Deputy Prime Minister under Mahathir. 1998, for various reasons, he upset the Prime Minister very much, and he was sacked and jailed for sodomy and abuse of power, and sentenced quite heavily to jail. And I think he was in jail for 5 years or something. He was sitting off his 6-year period, and then he was released. His appeal against the sodomy sentence was upheld, and he was released 2004, I think. But because of that jail sentence that he had earlier, he could not run for public office until the 4th of April, and that was why he was not a candidate in the March 8 elections. And of course, we suspect that the government actually chose March 8 because March 8 comes before April, right? And so he wasn't in there. And maybe now, when we look back at it, maybe that was a mistake on the part of the government, because it freed Anwar to campaign as a leader of the whole opposition camp.
Rather than just Permatang Pauh.
He could move around. He didn't have to try to win anything. He just moved around as a leader, propagating the views of his allies, as it were. And it worked very well. I was in Penang then, sent by ISIS to follow the campaign. Very exciting, exciting, especially in Penang, I thought. And the opposition won in a way that nobody could have predicted. The main opposition party there, the DAP, for example, swept all the seats. That should say something. And I think Malaysians were shocked. Didn't know how to take it, and especially in Penang, where voters have always been considered rather conservative, and it's been ruled up until March 8 for 39 years by the Gerakan, party that became part of the ruling Barisan Nasional.
So even the voters,
Penang voters were always considered rather too strategic in their voting. They tended to vote for the BN for the state, and then at federal level they would go for the opposition. One can see the reason for that. They want their cake and eat it as well. This time around, they didn't. People expected them to, but they didn't, and that has to be explained as well. It's all part. It's not only Penang that fell to the opposition. We see that 5 states, 4 more than Kelantan, of course. Altogether, 5 states fell to the opposition. And Penang is therefore, what happened in Penang was therefore part of a much bigger wave. And it would be saying too much, of course, to say that this wave is synonymous with the Anwar struggle. It's not exactly the same thing. It's more that at the moment they're going parallel. And I think a lot of the attacks coming from BN against Anwar as a person is very much aimed at trying to separate these two things. One is that there's a new demand among Malaysian voters for change and for better leadership. They're thinking that the economy might not be doing very well globally and all that, all sorts of worries, and that perhaps it's time for racialism to take a back seat. It's been in the front seat for too long. Religion is creeping too quickly into the secular system. All those kinds of worries, and then we have Anwar. And so Anwar today and Anwar in the old days, of course, can be seen as quite different people, and that's where he is open to attack from the BN.
That's right. So this by-election results, is going to determine the political future of Anwar Ibrahim, and it's also going to likely determine who's going to be Malaysia's next Prime Minister. And since it's so crucial, I think it's time to actually find out a bit more about the 3 candidates who are actually vying for this seat. Let's take a look.
It's a poll fight that has come full circle after 26 years. The man of the moment, Malaysia's de facto opposition leader Anwar Ibrahim. He's battling for a by-election win at the rural constituency of Permatang Pauh in the state of Penang. And the poll today is pivotal to his political future, and also on Malaysia's future because he could be the next Prime Minister if he wins. It could possibly pave the way for his return to Parliament after a 10-year absence in his race for premiership.
Well, I'm encouraged by the level of support.
So Permatang Pauh is crucial ground to be gained. And after 26 years, it is full circle for Anwar, who won the very same constituency in 1982. He contests the seat once again, this time as a candidate for the opposition Parti Keadilan Rakyat or PKR. It's Anwar's shot for comeback as Malaysia's Prime Minister. And he's maintained that he has silent support from within the ranks of the Barisan National Coalition or BN, and claimed he can win over more than 40 Barisan MPs, which could topple the government. Which is why all the big guns at BN are out to back Anwar's opponent, the United Malays National Organisation or UMNO's Arif Shah Omar Shah. Mr. Arif Shah has often highlighted his multiracial affinities by flaunting his Chineseness.
Permatang Pauh 里的选民呢，大家都很高兴要支持国政。
Since nomination day about 2 weeks ago, Deputy Prime Minister Najib Razak has camped out in Permatang Pauh to secure voters through tireless house-to-house campaigning. A sign that BN acknowledges the fight for Permatang Pauh will be a close one, given that Anwar's wife, Wan Aziza Wan Ismail, boasted a 13,000 majority in the March 8 elections.
There are lots of areas in its constituencies that need to be attended to, which have not been attended to, despite the fact that Anwar was here and Datuk Wan Aziza was here.
The third candidate, Hanafi Hamad from little-known Islamic party Angkatan Keadilan Insan Malaysia, has kept a low profile. Except for a few posters, he's hardly been seen. But Anwar's headaches are not just confined to tough campaigning. The personal attacks on the 61-year-old have been relentless. Anwar has already been charged with allegedly sodomizing an aide and is currently on bail. Mr. Saiful Bukhari Aslan swore in a mosque that he had been sodomized by Anwar. And if Anwar gets convicted, he will once again lose his seat and may never recover in politics, given his age. Observers believe that these are continual efforts to discredit Anwar and to prevent him from re-entering Parliament. Just last week, Malaysia's anti-corruption agency arrested 2 state lawmakers, Muhammad Osman Muhammad Jailu and Jamaluddin Muhammad Radzi in Perak, from Anwar's PKR party for alleged bribery as well as involvement in sex corruption. Anwar is also crying foul over voter lists just on Monday. He charged that his party supporters had been culled from voter lists ahead of the by-election. A party leader had told the media 949 names were missing from voter lists from the one that was used in the March 8 election. So it's a rocky road back into Parliament for Anwar. But if the votes sway his way, it will be the road to becoming Prime Minister.
Well, already we have comments coming in from our audience on the web. Little Kid says, I was thinking that the reason this whole event has garnered a lot of attention from the media, can it be presumably because Anwar is a high-profile person? A speculation that I had is perhaps considering Anwar's history in Malaysia, most people are interested as to how the Malaysian government and Anwar are going to play out their cards.
Dr. Wee echoes what Dr. Wee has said just now.
Yeah, so Dr. Wee, what exactly are their cards that they're playing? Or any hidden behind their backs that we should know of?
Well, they're hidden, right? So I don't know.
Let's talk about the cards we can see.
Judging about the hidden cards that have been shown, the sodomy charge is one. Saiful, his former young aide who swears on the Quran that he was sodomized and all that. Those were cards that were hidden ones, and they came out. And they were totally unpredictable cards, including the latest one of the imam who said that the swearing ceremony itself was a bit doubtful and
was not done properly,
and he cast doubt on whether Saiful was being sincere and all that. That was another hidden card. That was from Anwar's side, I think. So I wouldn't be so presumptuous as to be able to
read their cards.
Yeah, to read their hidden cards, let alone other things. But Anwar, yes, he's extremely high profile. He's seen as, for good reasons, as the possible prime ministerial candidate. he was once acting prime minister, you know, in 1997, I think, or 96, 97.
Okay.
And so now, why Permatang Pauh is important is that now, if the latest reports are correct, he's back in Parliament. So that's one hurdle gone for him. The next one is actually the trial itself, but he might be trying to act before that trial takes place, because we don't know what will happen at the trial and all that, judging from the past records.
Okay.
So Anwar is one beleaguered politician, as we know from his history, and yet he's still in the running now, and he's still, you know, at it, going for, you know, still trying to get back into Parliament. How hot a favourite do you think Anwar is, from your own perspective, your own analysis?
As a Penang native,
Oh yes.
How hot a favourite to be?
Yeah, to you know, to win the seat in Permatang Pauh.
I think he has won, according to exit polls. Of course, that's not the official result, but all reports say that he has won. 61 to 39 is the latest figure we have. We don't have the official figures yet, but that's well, not as much as during March 8 when his wife won by a margin of 13,000. This would be something less than 10,000. But I don't think it matters very much, because this is a new scene, and we're not dealing with that same kind of wave that was in Malaysia on March 8. So, of course, the wave is not that big, the results, the differences would not be that great. And now it's a by-election, and BN can put a lot of resources into it, as we have seen. All the great, big personalities are in there, Khairi, Najib, and all that. So, the fact that he wins by a smaller margin is quite expected to me.
So you think a 61%, even though it's exit polls right now, it's substantial enough for him to earn credibility as a leader?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
If he had won by 2 votes, 10 votes, 100 votes, then, you know, perhaps. But still, the game is on. He's won, and he's in Parliament. Now, Parliament is going to be recessed from after the 29th, when the budget is going to be, strangely enough, very early, going to be put forward in Parliament, and then it won't be discussed. That is also strange. It won't be discussed until after Ramadan. And so, although Anwar comes into Parliament, Parliament will not be seating, will not be seated. And so, you know, we have a whole month of September. What's going to happen then? Anwar has been talking about September 16. We know the significance of September 16.
It's 20 days from now.
Yes, that was when Singapore, together with Sabah and Sarawak, actually joined according to a certain contract.
Also, there's a historic significance to that date as well.
Yes, so he chose that because it has special significance, not to the West Malaysians, but to the East Malaysians. And he's aiming at the East Malaysians, you see. If you look at the March 8 results, on the West, in West Malaysia, if you BN actually lost. It actually lost, but it remained in power thanks to the reform wave, if you want to call it that. Did not reach that far, as it were. So BN was very strong over there. And now, suddenly, it comes also as a surprise to the East Malaysia. Suddenly, they see a new scenario coming into being in West Malaysia, where you suddenly see 2 coalitions actually standing face to face with each other, almost equally strong. And so suddenly, they're the kingmakers, right? And so, of course, Anwar strategists would look at East Malaysia, just like Abdullah and BN does. Say, we've got to keep these guys loyal. While Anwar says that we've got to buy these guys over, convince them to come over and all that. Now, if Anwar is not even a member of Parliament and he says, join me, would you? You wouldn't, right? If you're already an MP and all that. But if he were already in Parliament and he's got a lot of support and he says, I need at least 30 people. You talked about 40 earlier. You need 40 because you don't want to win by 1 vote and all that. So he uses September 16 because it means something very, very significant to
That's right. Well, we'll be getting back to this deadline of September 16 that Anwar has set for himself. We'll like to go for a break right now, but after the break, we'll be discussing more on September 16 and what this means to Malaysians as well as Singaporeans. And
we'll also bring you to the ground at Permatang Pauh, where our Malaysian correspondent was there this morning. See you after the break.